It was conceptualized and constructed to excel as a air superiority fighter, but over time it developed air-to-ground capabilities, particularly in the suppression of enemy air defense or SEAD operations. Numerous nations across the world actively employ the F-16, showing off its multifaceted potential. The F-16 being a multi-role fighter means it can receive a list of tasking for operations including airborne forward air controller, anti-ship, combat air patrol, close air support, escort, fighter sweep, ground attack, intercept, pinpoint strike, reconnaissance, runway strike, SEAD, and DEED. DEED being destruction of enemy air defense as opposed to suppression of enemy air defense. Okay, from there we will start with the in-game portion, being the cockpit familiarization. We will work from the rear left side of the cockpit, so behind your seat on the left side, around to the right side from there. First off, you have under your defog handle, you have the general flight control page. You will almost never touch, or panel, not page. You'll never almost never touch this panel. Under that, you have manual trim, which is yet another panel you will almost never touch. Working right from there, under the large canopy jettison T handle, you have the fuel panel. This is where you will control your engine feed, as well as opening your air-to-air refuel door, which is the switch on the right side. Under that, you have your IFF panel. The main switch there being the master knob on the top left corner. Under that, you have the external lights. Also, if I end up going too fast and you guys want an explanation for something, just interrupt me at any point. So back to that, you have the external light panel. In the top left corner is your anti-collision. This you will set to your flight number whenever you do your cold start. So say your Viper 1-3, you will set the knob to 3. And what that will do is set the strobe on your tail to blink 3 times, pause, and then continue blinking 3 times again, and then a pause. And that's how you can visually identify people within your flight. To the right of that, you have your main electrical panel, right under the throttle, which is your main power switch, as well as your EPU. You won't need to touch the EPU really, but the main power... Actually, I don't even think the EPU is functioning in this module currently. But the main power switch is going to be how you turn on the plane. To the chairward of that, it is your ECM panel. This is your electronic countermeasure panel. You will only be using this if you have a jammer attached to your centerline, which if you don't know how to do it, it will be covered in a section SP. We are not going to cover that ourselves, as that is a combat function of the airplane rather than a non-combat function. To the forward of that is all your radio panels. The main switch on that being the UHF function knob, which is how you manually turn on your radios. To the canopy, or I guess where the throttle mount is of that is your jet fuel start. This is where you will start your engine precisely. It is the I guess it's an APU, is it? Technically, I guess, McKay?
What is it you're looking at?
The jet fuel starter, is it considered an APU, or is it just a
Mm,
starter?
it's just a starter.
Okay.
The 16 has a starter, and then the hydraulics spool up with the engine.
Yeah. From there, we will move up to the 45-degree angle panel. This is called the left auxiliary panel. At the bottom of it, you have your HMCS mod or knob. This is your helmet mounted cueing system, also known as your helmet sight. To the left and up of that is your threat warning auxiliary panel, which includes your master power for your RWR. Up and right of that is your countermeasure dispense system panel. This includes your chaff, flare, secondary RWR, and your program and mode for your chaff and flare dispenser. Above that, we have the landing gear handle, as well as your stores config, which is for Cat 1 is if you're running, I believe it's under 3,600 pounds, or it's 36,000 pounds, and then Cat 3 is if you're above 36,000 pounds. This limits your aircraft's AOA potential, so you are less likely to fall out of the sky. Okay, above that on the vertical panel, you have your two switches for your autopilot that is listed as roll and heading select for the top and steering select for the bottom. That is your turning. And then for your pitch, you have altitude hold on the up and attitude hold on the down. The attitude hold being the aircraft will hold your pitch up to or down to positive 15 and negative 15 degrees, I believe is the max for that. Above that, you have your master arm switch, your laser arm switch, and your RF silent switch, which is if you want to go comm/radar silent or emission silent, you turn that down. Left of or to the right of that, you have your left side MFD multifunction display. Directly above that, the circle is your RWR or radar warning receiver screen. Directly above your RWR, you have your AOA indicator, angle of attack. You will usually only use this during landing procedures. We will cover that in the landing. Then you have your HUD dead center of your view. Below that is your UFC or ICP, also known as upfront controls or integrated control panel. This will have multiple functions that we'll cover later as well. Directly below that, you have your airspeed indicator on the left and your altimeter on the right. Directly below that, then you have what's this thing called? Okay. Oh, your attitude director indicator, also known as ADI.
Yeah, and just
And
real quick to kind of
yes.
answer your question, yes, earlier about the APU.
Mhm.
There is technically an APU, but it's just your emergency power switch.
Ah.
You're only really going to use that in an emergency.
Mhm. Mhm. And then dead center between your legs at the very bottom is your HSI or horizontal situation indicator. Once you turn the plane on, this will display a compass along with a few other features. The right of that, you have your fuel quantity selector, which you can switch around to show once the plane is on what the fuel is in your external wings, center tank, and internal wings and reserve tank. Up and to the right of that, above your right leg, is your right MFD. And This is above that is just a backup ADI, I believe. Yep, attitude direction indicator. And then above that is your DED, which is your data entry display. To the right of your right MFD, the top is your oil pressure gauge. And I'm not 100% sure what this one is. The one directly below your oil pressure doesn't really matter. And then directly below that is your RPM gauge. It shows in percentage. You will use this during startup. And then if you go down a little bit further, there is a compass. And then to the right of your compass is your fuel gauge. At the bottom of your fuel gauge, it has a total number. This will show your total in pounds of fuel in your entire aircraft at all times as long as the plane is on. Moving down to the horizontal panels with all the switches, the topmost one to the forward of the aircraft is your sensor power panel. This is your left hardpoint, right hardpoint, fire control radar, and radar altimeter switches. The left hardpoint is usually going to be your HAD or your harm attack. No, harm targeting system. My bad. The right hardpoint will be your targeting pod, and then your FCR and your radar altimeter are self-explanatory. Below that, you have your HUD panel, which has multiple switches again. One that can be helpful that not too many people use is the DED data. If you've turned that on, it displays your DED page on your HUD, which can be helpful when you're air refueling. So you don't need to look down and see your fuel quantity to see how much more fuel you need to load into your aircraft. To the rear of that panel is your internal lighting panel. Your air conditioning panel, which you do not ever need to touch. Then from there, the panel facing you is your oxygen panel. Again, not something you ever need to touch as the switch is on by default. And then one of the most important systems that will absolutely screw your plane up if you do it wrong is your avionics power panel. This is where you will set your INS and your data link to on during your startup. I know that was a lot of information, very rapid fire and very basic. Is there any questions at this time before we move to the next portion?
Not a terribly related question. I would always say I don't think it is. I just have a question. Next to the HUD panel on the right side, it says
Yes.
nuclear consent. What the hell does that mean?
So that is
I got
something
this.
that is unfortunately not in the game. I have tried it. I have loaded the MiG-21's nuke on the F-16, and it does not work.
God damn it.
But in the event that they ever do decide to add nuclear weapons to the 16, you would click that to arm the warhead on the nuke.
Good to know.
Yep.
From there, we will move to the keybind section. If you want to open up your address controls, and we will just run through it. The easiest way to find all these is just type in at the top next to F-16. You can click search in the drop-down menu and then type in the function you're looking for. The first one is under access, or you can set it as a not a knob if you don't have an option for that. It is your antenna elevation, ANT space ELV or ELEV knob. This will control your radar elevation. For this portion, just acknowledge when you have it set. And then we can move on to the next one.
Yeah, mine's good.
Good.
You good, Thumper?
Yeah, guess I didn't go through, yeah.
Okay. Next one is your camera/gun trigger. You're gonna need to set both the first and second detent. The first detent is how you fire your laser, and the second detent is how you fire your gun if you're in a mode to fire the gun, say dogfight or air the ground strafing. Okay. Next is the chaff/flare dispense button. This on single press will release one chaff and one flare.
Sorry, I'm sorry, talking to myself. I apologize.
Yep. All good.
So here's the weird part: is I know that I have a chaff flare dispense set on my thing, but it's not showing up. Would there be another thing that might be listed under?
Yes, so that's a second option. If you have enough buttons, it would be under countermeasures management switch.
Is that essentially the same thing?
Ah, there it is.
Yes,
Okay.
but that is also under a four-way if you don't have enough buttons.
Yeah, okay. Mine's already preset that way, so I'm just validating it's the same thing, so I don't have to set this one.
Yes, those are the same. And that is countermeasure left. They are essentially the same thing, though. Are we both good there?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next one is a four-way switch, so an up, down, left, right. It is the display management switch. Up will select your HUD as the sensor of interest, and long press from the HUD already being sensor of interest makes your HEMX the sensor of interest. Pressing down selects your left or right MFD, And then left cycles the screens on your left MFD, and right cycles the right screens on your MFD.
Yeah, I'm good.
Next is the dogfight missile override switch. Dogfight slash center cycles the dogfight to previously selected mode. And then missile override slash center cycles the missile override and previously selected mode. Next is expand slash FOV button. This I have personally on my depress of my TDC. So if you have that, how you control your radar or targeting pod already selected, if that has a press in, that's usually a good option to have that. This zooms in a step on both your radar, your HSD, and your targeting pod. Next is LG handle, up down, which is your landing gear. Next is the manual range knob, which can be an axis or a switch. It's just zoom in, zoom out. Zoom out is how you zoom in and zoom out on multiple sensors.
What was the name of it again?
Manual range, it's MAN space RNG. Next is nose wheel steering slash missile step. This is listed as NWS slash or A slash R. This turns on your turns on and off your nose wheel steering, as well as if you're airborne and in a setting for it, it can step between your missiles or bombs. Or bomb modes if you are running GBUs. Next is the RDR cursor. This is your radar cursor. It is usually set as an axis unless you don't have one, and then you can do up, down, and left, right. This is how you slew your radar, TGP, move around on your HSI or HST. I've been playing the fucking F-18 too much recently. Are you good, Thumper?
No, I'm out of switches. I'm trying to figure out what I can put it on.
Which control or which setup of controls do you have?
I have Warthog HOTAS.
So this, have you set up any other aircraft yet?
The Hornet.
Uh, do you have something set for your TDC on that?
Uh, yeah.
It's the exact same function in the F-16. It's just a different name.
Okay.
So if you want to keep continuity of how you use your aircraft between the two, whatever you have for your TDC on the Hornet is useful for this.
Yeah. If for whatever reason it's not detecting the axis, I don't know why.
Because you're clicking the up, down, left, right. You have to go up to the axis on the very top of the screen there.
Uh, oh,
Where it
here.
says RDR, cursor X and Y. Yep.
There we go. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next is a four-way switch. It is the target management switch. Generally, up locks a target and down unlocks a target or undesignates, with left and right having multiple functions depending on what system you're using currently.
So out of curiosity, do you know of any glitches where that would not be the case?
What do you
Where,
mean?
so during the last SP with Honey Badgers,
Mhm.
um, we were doing one of the ones where you use the targeting pod and then you click down and then you JDAM. There we go.
Yep.
And I clicked down and my JDAM still wouldn't fire. It would not recognize that I was clicking down on a target.
What do you
But
mean by clicking down?
sorry, I target management switch up. Sorry, I call it a click because technically it's almost like a computer click. But
Okay. So
uh,
so you hit the so you did TMS up,
yeah,
right?
TMS up, and I tried to fire the JDAMs and no joy.
Okay. Was your master arm on?
Yes,
Okay, so your
Was the
master arm
JDAM
was
on?
on. Yeah, did you turn your JDAM on?
yes. I walked through it. I'm trying to remember who was the guy who was running the exercise with me. But he ran me through all the things, and him and I could not figure out why it wasn't working. So I attributed it to like a bug with the F-16. But I
I've
don't
Trying
know
to
never
if
run
think.
into it. I won't say it's an impossibility,
okay.
but usually it's user error.
Yeah, and I fully believe it is. I'm just trying to figure out what
Yeah.
exactly.
What was
Right.
your? Were you at an extreme bank angle, or were you in a dive when you were trying to release it?
I was not in a dive, but I may have been too far like off center, I guess.
Like
Because he was having me do a turn to my right when I was targeting, and then fire. So I'm not sure if that factors into it.
yeah, if your aircraft is too far banked to one side or the other, the JDAM won't release.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, okay. This
so
is
that's
good.
a bank angle limitation. But it should, but for it not to release, you'd have to be at a pretty extreme bank.
Hmm.
Um, like I would say greater than 45-degree bank. Were you at or around a 45-degree bank?
I don't know. It was about 2 weeks ago. I probably was because the only way I really know how to turn is turn completely sideways and then turn. Still getting on the nuances of smaller turns. So probably I was completely sideways.
Yeah, and that's probably why it didn't release.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, depending on the weapon and how close you are, if you're like 15 degrees off angle or more from the target, it won't release.
Okay. So it could be those two things.
Mhm. Yeah, generally you want to be level whenever you're getting ready to release JDAM like that.
Okay. Level for JDAMs.
Mhm. Next button is the uncaged switch. This is used for aim 9 targeting as well as laser spot search or buddy lasing. Then we have wheel brake, which can be an axis or non-axis, depending on how you want to use it. And then lastly, for the required ones is weapon release, which is WPN space REL. Next ones are optional, but usually incredibly useful. The first one is the countermeasure management switch, which is a four-way. Left is a single release of one chaff, one flare. Forward is a dispense selected program. Aft is consent for semi and auto mode. Also activates your ECM pod if you have it on. And then right stops the currently selected program. Next is if you don't have a built-in detent into your HOTAS, it is the cycle afterburner detent, which is useful for not accidentally going into afterburner and burning way too much fuel in the F-16. Next is the emergency storage jettison button, which it's EMER space stores. This jettisons all air the ground weapons as well as fuel tanks. Next is ICP space DED increment decrement switch. This is used to cycle steer points as well as a couple other functions within the DED. Next is your speed brake, which is SPD space BRK. Let's see. Aft extends it, and then B retracts it. Or not B. Forward retracts it. My bad. Next is the trim button, which is a four-way, which trims the aircraft as specified by the buttons. Usually you won't need to do up and down on the nose, but left and right are useful if you're running an asymmetric loadout, as the 16 is very prone as a light aircraft to roll left or right if you have an asymmetric load on the wings. And then lastly is the transmit switch, IFF in, which is used to transmit your sensor point of interest to other F-16s. All right. Is there any questions on the keybinds before we jump over to actually starting the aircraft?
I have one.
Yep.
Like in the Hornet, it's got that idle off. Is that a thing in the F-16 or no?
As in, like, move the
Yeah, where you have to basically
throttle
unlock
from the idle?
throttle. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a default right shift home.
Right. Okay.
I
But
don't
if
remember offhand what it is for something else, though.
I've got it set up on my throttle already, the same as the Hornet. I just didn't know if it was a thing in the F-16 or not.
Yeah, for the F-16, it is listed as throttle-idle.
Okay, I think I set that as the right. Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. I just wanted to double check. Thanks.
I just use right shift home personally, but yeah. Some people like putting on their throttle. All right. So one key note for the cold start of the aircraft is that it is a good practice to rearm or rearm and refuel your plane before starting your cold start, as if your plane moves even the slightest during your INS alignment, it will throw it off completely and you'll need to begin the INS alignment from scratch.
Request rearming. Copy.
All right, so this is where my noobness comes in. How do I
Mhm.
do that?
So the default keybind to pull up the comms or the quick comms menu is \.
Okay.
Then you hit F8 for ground crew and F1 for rearm refuel, and that will pull up your loadout page.
Okay, thanks.
For that today, once you're on the loadout page, we'll do aim 120 on each of the wingtips, so pylons 9 and 1.
Rearming complete.
A centerline fuel tank on station 5. And then a TGP on 5R. The TGP being the only option you have on that pylon. And then once you have that all set, you hit OK in the bottom right, and it rearms the aircraft.
Request rearming. Copy. Copy.
Stream really quick. Another quirk with the F-16, if you are already running your aircraft and you've landed to rearm or refuel or are switching loadout before a mission, do not move the aircraft until they say rearm complete, as it will screw with your entire plane and all of your weapons will be completely unusable.
Rearming complete.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like an F-15 where you can manually load all the weapons, and if you screw it up, the only way to have your weapons loaded onto your aircraft is automatically through them rearming it.
And also another good order of thumb too, if you're loading fuel tanks, and you want to put on fresh fuel tanks, that have fuel in them, make sure to unload the fuel tanks and then reload them. They won't automatically refuel your external fuel tanks.
Okay. I assume by now everybody's rearm should be complete. So we will begin the cold starting procedures. The first switch is the main power switch under the throttle on the left-hand side. You are going to put that to main power, which is the forward option. Next is the jet fuel starter, which is the JSF switch. You switch that to start 2, which is the aft position. During this, you are going to completely ignore the green light to the left of the JSF. It only lights up once the JSF is active. That is not an indication that your aircraft is at idle speed. A lot of people, when they first jump in the aircraft, think that means they can switch their throttle to idle, and it's not. You just end up paying starting and have to reslot. Okay. And then to the right of your right MFD, you have your RPM gauge. Once it is over 20%, you can hit right shift home, and this will move your throttle from the off position to idle. Next step, on your radio panel under the throttle, your UHF radio function knob is going to be set to both. Next, you will arm the ejection seat lever, which is right next to your CMDS panel.
I'm still trying to find
the radio, the UHF.
Yeah.
So right, you see like that little thumb slot in your throttle?
Yeah.
Right to the right of the manual range knob? Where it says off, or on the panel where it says off, main, both, and then ADF.
Yeah, I'm still not seeing it. Which, oh wait, there it is. I found it. Thank you.
Good. And then the ejection seat lever is right next to your CMDS. Yep, that would be it. Okay. On the far right panel, so right behind your seat where the INS is, you're gonna turn all the switches to on. Don't touch any of the knobs yet. Just turn all the switches to the up position. Including the bottom center too. Yep. And then you switch your INS knob, which is the left one, to stored heading, or store heading. If you, for some odd reason, have to restart your aircraft, so you need to repair it, and then you need to restart your aircraft afterward, when you've moved from your initial spawn location, you have to align it with the norm knob, as stored heading is a mission locked thing where it is only exactly where your aircraft spawns.
Okay, tracking.
Next, we're going to move way back to the left side on the IFF panel. Right below the canopy jettison T-handle, there is the IFF master knob. You're going to switch that to norm. Moving up to the threat auxiliary panel, which is on the left auxiliary console, you're going to press the button that says power, which is the lower right hand of the threat warning auxiliary. You see that little like yellow thing sticking out the side of your canopy?
Yeah.
Rail. It's right under that where it says it's 4 buttons in a square. It's the bottom right one that says power.
I cannot read that. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Make sure you pop that little yellow thing back out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, on the CMDS panel itself, you are going to turn on RWR, chaff, flare. Oh, it's to the right of the button you just pressed. There is the RWR up-down switch.
Oh, there it is.
Yep. And then the chaff and flare are the CH and FL to the left of that. Okay, you see the 4 switches in a horizontal line?
Yeah, here.
It's the left, or the right two. Yep. And then right below that rightmost switch is the mode knob. You're going to set that to semi. Okay. Directly below that knob and to the left, there's the symbology intensity knob. You're going to turn that all the way up. That turns on your HEMIX. Next, you're going to move to your ICP panel, which is the center right under the HUD. The scroll wheel that is listed as SYM, which is symbology, you're going to turn that all the way up. That should turn on your HUD. To the right of that ICP panel is the ADI that has a little red flag sticking out of it. You're going to turn that knob, or you're going to press it once and then turn the knob until it's aligned with the horizon. Then you're going to go down to the right on the sensor power panel and turn on all 4 of the switches. The left hardpoint, right hardpoint, FCR, and radar altimeter. And next step is a little in depth. You're gonna do this through the DED. It's going to be aligning your HEMIX. You're first gonna hit list on the ICP. It is the big button of the top, or the 6 big circular buttons at the top of the ICP. This list, and then you're going to hit 0 for miscellaneous, and then RCL for HEMIX. You're going to use the dauber, which is the little square knob at the bottom center of the ICP. Hit sequence to the right. Right below 8 and 9. Yeah, you're gonna hit right on that.
Where did you say we were going to?
Sequent. You're gonna hit SEQ on it. No,
Oh.
You see where you can go to the right and left there?
Okay, I'm in the wrong spot there.
Yep, there you go. Okay. From there, you're gonna hit 0. And then after that, you are going to align the crosshair in your view with the crosshair on the HUD. As best you can.
Dear God. Turn my track higher back on.
Yeah, that might be helpful. After that, after it's aligned, you're going to hit enter on your keyboard. It will flash aligning and then hit align OK. And then you can hit 0 on your ICP again, which is the M select. And then you can hit return on that square dauber, which is to the left. Okay. From there, if you have the flashing align on the bottom left hand of your HUD, that means your aircraft is aligned and ready. So you go back to the INS switch on the bottom right hand corner. Not of the DED, of your internal panels in your cockpit. Yep. You're going to go back to that INS switch that's currently at stored heading and switch it to nav, which is 2 turns.
Yep.
Okay. Go back to the center where your HUD is and turn on your nose wheel steering. It's the NWS button that you set during. Yep. So you see right above your DED where it says AR NWS now?
Yeah.
Yep. That means your nose wheel steering's on. And then the very last step is turning your external lighting to the correct settings. So you're going to go to the bottom left. You're going to turn your position lights to steady. Your wingtail and fuselage to BRT. The anti-collision lights are going to be set to whatever your flight number is. Let me see who's in what slot right now. F10. Okay, so in this case, you both are actually in 2 slots. Somebody's in Viper 2-2 and one's in 1-2. So you're gonna turn your anti-collision light to your flight number, which is 2 for both of you.
Looks like it defaults to 1, correct?
Yes. What's up, Rinaldi? We're in train server 1 if you want to jump in. Or not 1, train server 2. Alright, and then very last step to the left of your landing gear handle is your taxi and landing light. You're going to turn to taxi, which is down. It's not in your external lighting, it's up above your CMDS panel. Down. Down a little bit more. Okay, to the left of the big ass handle. Yep, there you go. Your plane is now officially cold started.
Do that.
If you ever need a guide for that, it is listed in the dock. If you need to, it's on the outline listed under cold start. Rinaldi, can you hear me now? Oh, nothing. From here, we will move to the cockpit functionality section. We're going to start off with the multifunction displays. The multifunction displays are where you'll get the majority of your information regarding what your aircraft sensors and other aircraft via data link can see, what your weapons and systems are set to, where your navigation points are, and other things. One thing that may help, though sometimes tedious, is when you or after your cold start or during your cold start, you can set up your multifunction displays by your master mode. So you can have different setups for your air to ground, air to air, nav, dogfight, and missile override functions. This will allow you to flip through your displays by simply hitting the display management switch rather than having to use your mouse to click on individual buttons when you're in combat. This is done by setting your aircraft to the desired master mode, clicking the button of the page that you want to change. So in this case, we'll go to your left MFD and mouse click the test button, which is the center bottom button. From there, you will mouse click the page of the MFD that you would want to replace that with. So we'll do TGP. So yeah, hit test and then hit TGP. Give me a second. I fucked up or is this fucked up? Okay, you know why I wouldn't be able to switch right now? Give me a second, I don't know why it's not able to switch. Try double pressing it, the test button. See what happens. There you go. Yeah, my bad. I need to switch that, so it'd be double press. So yeah, whenever you're in the master mode that you want, if you want to switch out any of those things, you just double press the button that you want to replace, and then select the page that you wanted to replace it with.
Yeah, it's still not getting mine to do that.
Let me see. So double click test.
There we go. I was hitting the wrong one.
Okay. By doing this, you can have 3 separate pages on MFD and on each MFD in each master mode that you can cycle through simply by hitting the display management switch on towards the panel that you want to switch. It is recommended that you find a setup that you like and add it to your cold start procedure, so you have a plane that's set up and will the same way every time and will become a second nature for you to use in combat. Next is data link. Data link is one of the biggest challenges of integrated modern warfare one of the biggest challenges to integrated modern warfare is the identification of contacts, as various information donors like friendly radar fighters, ground radar stations, AWACS, and ships interrogate unknown targets with IFF systems. This information is relayed to everyone within a given network. In the F-16, it is called Link 16. The MID system, which is the Multifunctional Information Distribution System, is the NATO name for the communication component of Link 16. Which you look at on your MFD. Your screen. So this is kind of a illustration of what you're looking at. So something like an AWACS will pick up a target like these and beam it to the individual planes, or a ship will pick it up and beam it to the individual planes. And then this is what it will look like on your HSD, which is your horizontal system or situation display. So for what others can see and are sending to you, you have hostile targets, unknown, suspect, and friendly. Friendly data links that are transmitting to you. So if there's a friendly plane transmitting to you like an AWACS, this is what it will look like on your HSD. This is what a wingman will look like to you on your HSD. And then what your plane can see will be filled in shapes rather than hollow shapes, being hostile, unknown, suspect, and friendly. And then if you can see wingmen, this is what they'll appear as. Okay, from here we will set up a data link between both of you. You're gonna go to your MIDS panel, or your INS panel, which is the far right panel, and turn the MIDS LVT switch to on. From there, you're going to go back to your upfront controls, your ICP, hit list, hit E for DLNK, or enter. Yeah, it's the enter button to the right of the numbers. Yep. You're gonna hit the dauber to switch to sequence twice, so that little square thing. And then from here we will input numbers. So to make it simple, Zamora, you will enter the first number as 00011. Or for both of you, you both will enter 00011 for the first one. You have to dauber down once to enter it. There you go. Now put in 00011 and then hit enter. And then the next one is going to be 00012. You will have to dauber down again to get to the number. Okay, and then dauber back up to next to the one where there's now a blank space. Up one more, Thumper. There you go. So it's hovering over that blank space, and then I believe you hit 9. Yep. So the key pops up. This will make sure that all those numbers appear as teammates to you, which is your flight. Okay. And then from there, dauber down to where it says own on the far right. Oh, keep going. It's, yep, there you go. You just passed it. There you go. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So Zamora, you will have it set as 1. And then Thumper, you will be set as 2.
And it already is.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. This will ensure that you guys are now data linked as a flight inside the game. So whenever you look at your HSD now, it should show each other as a blue symbol. You might not be able to see it because you're probably within a couple 100 feet on the ground, so you'll be overlapping. But say you were airborne at about 10 miles from each other, you'll be able to see each other on your HSD at all times. Next is going to be the generalized version of waypoint navigation. On your dauber, hit return twice, so you're back to your main screen on your DED. I did cancel. Okay. So your currently selected steer point on your main screen will always be in your top right corner, listed as STPT. You can cycle through these by hitting the increment decrement switch, which we set during the keybinds, or you can press it on your UFC via your mouse, which is the bottom left's rectangle switch that has an up and down arrow on it.
Sorry, I was getting hollered at. I missed what you were just saying. Apologies.
The top right corner of your DED where it says STPT,
Yeah.
that is your currently selected steer point.
Right.
During flight or on the ground, you will be able to cycle through this by hitting the increment decrement switch, which we set during the keybinds. Or if you don't have it set, or for whatever reason can't use it, you can also use the up and down arrow key on the rectangle switch on the bottom left of your ICP.
Yeah, I don't remember what I said it as. I'll have to go look.
So I haven't asked in a while. Does anybody have any questions at this time about anything that we've covered so far?
I just got here from ground school. I'm just following along. I have the ICP bound already on my keyboard, if that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, if you want to jump in and cold start your aircraft if you know how to.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah. All right, so I'll jump in. All right, right there.
Yep. All right, from there we will begin covering how to set up a steer point via the lat long on your aircraft. All right, so first thing, you're already on your main DED page. You're gonna hit F4, which is STPT on your ICP. This will bring up the steer point page. From there, what we are going to do is hit F10 on your keyboard. This will pull up the map. And we are going to go over to Krasnodar. We'll do Krasnodar Center, which is in the DK99 coordinate block. Delta Kilo 99. It is directly east quite a bit of where we are currently. Yep, right there. From there, you are going to press Alt and left click near the runway, not directly on it. This will pull up a little coordinates box in the top left corner of your screen. From there, you will hit F1 to go back to your plane. And we will enter the coordinates that is listed as lat long decimal minutes. So first you will dauber down to where the lat is. You will hit 2, which is N, and then enter the first set, so 4505291. Hit enter. Dauber down once to go to east. And then, so for east, there is east-west, there is a little quirk in the F-16. It always has to be set as 8 digits. So if you're not on like the Marianas map, which by default has 8 digits, if you're flying Syria, Persian Gulf, Caucasus, it only has 7 digits in that lat long minutes. So you'll hit E for east, and then you'll put a 0 in front of the entire coordinates. So that will enter that 8th digit. On the Marianas, instead of a 0, you'll just enter whatever it says. You will say 138 dot whatever. Okay, from there you'll hit enter and set that, and then you will go down to elevation, which is ELVEV, and set the elevation in the bottom right corner in feet. And then hit enter. And that is how you create a steer point via lat long coordinates. On your HUD now, you will see in the bottom right corner where it says a 068 or something very similar to that, maybe 069 or 067. That is your distance to currently selected steer point. And then the caret and 001 is your selected steer point. So 001 is your steer point. Any questions on that? Fantastic. Okay, from there we will move to the TGP, the targeting pod management. So to initially turn it on, you will hit the top right corner where it says standby. Well, first we'll go in the air to ground mode, so hit the AG mode on your ICP to enter air to ground mode. Okay, then from there you will navigate to your TGP. It should default on your right side screen as as the default option is on your right side of the screen. Okay, from there, we'll go through all the buttons. This is going to be, again, a lot of information relatively quickly. So the top left button is your targeting pod mode select. You will have air the ground, which is AG, air the air, and standby. Going clockwise from there is it currently should say man. You can set this to auto if you're using Mavericks for the auto handoff sub mode. In manual, the AGM-65 will be slaved to the line of sight of the TGP, but is not automatically handed off. In auto, if you press TMS up, it creates a point track, which will automatically trigger the automatic handoff to the Maverick. To the right, which is the center top, is the field of view setting, which is narrow and wide. You can use this by hitting the expand/FOV button, which is set on your TDC, or your radar cursor, I guess, and the F-16 is what it's called. To the right of that is your override button. This overrides any current mode and returns the targeting pod to standby. To the right of that is the targeting pod control page selector, used to set targeting pod settings. Down and to the right of that on the right side is the sensor type. The default is TV or CCD, charge coupled device. If you press that once, it switches it to white hot. And then pressing it again, it will switch it to black hot, the latter two being thermals. Below that is your track polarity. The default setting is NT, which is neutral track. Allows both white and black targets to be point tracked. If you press it once, it enters WT, which is white track, which only allows white point targets to be tracked. If you press it again, it switches to BT, which is black track, which allows black point targets to be tracked. Below that is the steer point, or not steer point, snowplow mode button, which should not be currently lit up unless you aimed your targeting pod off axis. But pressing this mode will snowplow the TGP to the aircraft heading and on the horizon. This is the basic look and designate mode that is done through the targeting pod. Below that is cursor 0, CZ. Pressing this erases the current cursor slew and returns it to the center point of interest, which is almost always the selected steer point. Below that is sighting option. We were not going to bother covering that right now. The bottom is all the selector for the MFD, so we don't need to cover that. Then going all the way back to the left side, the first option for that is the center, which is automatic gain control. This is if you want to switch the gain on the screen, which is almost never. You don't really need to touch that. And above that at the top is grayscale, which allows the calibration of level and gain again, which is, again, something you almost never need to touch. So inside the button area, in the top left corner, there is a ton of numbers. This is your sensor point of interest data, which includes the coordinates north-south on the top, the coordinates east-west in the center, and then the mean sea level altitude in feet below that. In the top center, where it says, or should currently say 0Z, this is your zoom factor. If you zoom in, it will say 1 time, or 1Z, 2Z, 3Z, all the way up to 9Z. To the right of that, where there is a line through an N, this is your north arrow and ground plane. This shows the line indicates your ground plane relative to FLIR orientation, and the arrow will always point north and will increase in length depending on how far above or below the FLIR is to the horizon. On the right side of your MFD screen, where I don't know what it says by default, but it will say a bunch of numbers and then M. This is your meter stick indication. This is a little bit of a complex feature. What it is the distance of one of those dashed lines that form the crosshair of the MFD or the TGP. One of those dashed lines is how long in meters you are seeing on your screen. So if you're looking at a target on the ground, you can tell how long that is in meters by lining it up with one of those lines and measuring it via that. There's not many reasons you would ever need to do that, but it is a cool little feature to the TGP. Okay. Like I said, that was a lot of rapid fire information. Is there any questions at this time about any of what I just said? Nope. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? I just haven't heard anybody talk in a while.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hear you. Just listening.
Okay. From there, what time we got? 5:24. Okay, we will quickly cover autopilot. We'll do TACAN functionality next time. Okay, so autopilot, pretty simple. Right below your master arm, to the left of your MFD, you have two switches. That's a heading select and then roll select, or heading select and steering select on the left side, and then altitude hold and attitude hold on the right side. The left side, your heading select, is set by your HSI in the very bottom screen between your knees. There is a compass. On the bottom left of that compass, there is a knob that says HDG next to it. If you turn that knob, there is a little indicator that is two square white boxes that move around the outside of the compass. This is your heading select. If you turn that knob to a direction you want to head, and then turn on heading select while your autopilot is running, the plane will automatically turn to whatever heading you have set on that compass. For steering select, if you turn that on while your autopilot is on, it will steer to your currently selected steer point. For the right switch, the altitude hold is self-explanatory. Turning that up will hold your current altitude, provided your plane is keeping enough airspeed to hold said altitude. So if you hold it at like 160 knots at like 30,000 feet, you're just going to try to fall out of the sky. Your plane won't be able to keep up with it. The same applies to the bottom, which is your attitude hold. This can hold, I believe the maximum is plus or minus 15 degrees of pitch. As long as your plane is able to hold that attitude, it will. Any questions on that?
What are the like the pitch and roll limits that will automatically take the plane out of autopilot?
So the roll, I believe, is 45 degrees left and right. Will break autopilot. And then pitch, nothing will specifically. You have to pull, I believe it's higher than 5 Gs to break the autopilot.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So if you need to do it in a hurry, it will automatically snap off. There's some planes I know in DCS where even if you pull like the max amount, if you let go of the stick, it will just snap back to whatever the autopilot was before. In the F-16, once you break the autopilot, you are off until you turn off and back on the switch.
Well, look at that. Thanks.
Next, we will go to setting up comm frequencies. This is stupidly simple and done almost entirely through the DED. If you hit comm 1, that is your ultra high frequency radio. Typically within the CAV, this is used to communicate in between flights and to command and air traffic control. All you have to do for that is enter whatever frequency you want. So say you want to switch it to 297.00. All you have to do is type in 297 and hit enter, and it will autofill the zeros and set the comm frequency to 290. Comm 2 is your very high frequency. This is significantly shorter ranged. So if you're hiding behind mountains or separated from your flight by like, I think the max range is about 50 to 60 miles, depending on altitude and stuff like that, you can set that to your inter-flight frequency, and that will be your talk between your flight members. The reason that we really only use that for that talk between flight is on the F-16, the VHF is limited to 151.975 hertz or megahertz. So a lot of the frequencies like air traffic control, command, and stuff like that just cannot be talked to with that radio. All right. That is pretty much all we are going to cover today. Next week, we will start with the cold start again, just to beat it into everyone's head. And then we will go to taxiing and basic flight procedures. So takeoff, traffic patterns, and landings. Is there any questions on anything we covered today, or just any other random questions I can answer at this time?
Yeah, I got one. Look at this little SRS window. Is there a way to get rid of that?
Fuck. Chibs literally just covered yesterday. I forgot. Let me go back to our messages.
Click the X or minimize. Oh, who's
No,
screen?
it is Control Shift Escape.
And do it as many times as you need. You can get completely rid of it. There you go.
Yep. I usually leave it just to the text alone, not the box. That way you can at least see who's communicating over radios and on what frequencies you're already set and stuff like that.
Okay.
If you want to go in between that, you can. If you did it again, it's when people transmit, it will pop up with their name, and then it will disappear once they stop transmitting.
I'm fucking retarded. Oh, I'm dumb. I switched a step in the cold start. I didn't have you close your canopy. I was
Thank you
wondering
for
why you
getting
have
out
a
with
warning
really good air
light
conditioning.
on your HUD.
I did it automatically because it was too damn loud.
Oh, it is not locked or something then, because you still have a canopy warning light.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the spider handle, so that big ass yellow thing. Yep, there you go. Yeah, I definitely did not cover that in the cold start, though. I skipped over it. I would remember. That's all we got for today. The next class will be same time next week, so 2100 CST on Saturday. Or not CST, Zulu on Saturday. I have a little bit of time before I need to head out of here. If you guys have any generalized questions or anything else that I can answer.
Not that I can think of on my end.
I'm good right now. I'm still newish, so.
So I joined late. Basically went over cold start and then some went over some TGP work, and then setting navigation information into
Yep.
the DED. Okay.
And keybinds.
Okay. Yeah,
So if you go into the text channel for this specific voice chat,
Mhm.
I posted the F-16 basic course doc.
Oh, I downloaded it as soon as I got to the channel.
Yep. We pretty much covered everything through section 3,
Okay.
except for tech and navigation.
Okay, I'll review.
Mm-hmm. All right, I am going to drop out of the server.
I appreciate your time today, man.
What's up?
So I appreciate your time today.
Yep, not a problem. We set this up for a reason. It's more or less we help you guys and you help us out, because it's a lot easier on the SLs and stuff like that if they don't have to teach people how to cold start in the middle of an SP.
Yeah, it's just so much to learn in the F-16. It was like, oh, class is coming up? Yes. There are huge gaps in my knowledge of the F-16. So I wanted to fill those up.
I love the Viper, but I can now tell it's massively analog compared to the Hornet.
Oh, God, yeah. This one is. This one is.
Yeah, this one is.
This one is. It's a Block 70, not so much.
Yeah, it's more the RWR that's more. You don't have a big screen with your HSD to tell you everything.
I personally prefer the situational awareness pages on the F-16, though.
Yeah, I have both modules, and I just I prefer the way this aircraft is laid out over the F-18. And there's a bias there, but I feel like all the information I need is exactly just a quick glance away from the HUD and from above the cockpit, around the bubble.
Yeah, they both have their pluses and minuses. Like, I'll bitch at F-18 pilots all day just to fuck with them, but like, there's very minute differences. Like, there's some things I like about the F-16, like how on the MFDs I barely ever need to press any buttons, as opposed to the F-18, which every 2 seconds I'm leaning forward to click something with my mouse. In the F-16, you can do it almost entirely via HOTAS. And then on the 18, you get the automatic throttle control, which is fucking
really nice, right?
Great, but
yeah. Plus, the 16 just likes to go very fast, very quickly. So trying to fly in formation is not easy for a lot of people.
No, that's like such a weak point of mine is flying formation. I have Chib sent me a like an hour-long formation flying mission that I keep trying to do over and over. I suck at it. I just suck at it.
If you want to practice it, air to air refueling, or there's if you're on your own, there's a public 4-way aerobatics server. There's a bunch of formation flying going on there. If you did want to do that publicly,
yeah. I need to practice privately before I even stick my hat out publicly doing that.
Yeah. Well, So air-to-air refueling is by far the hardest non-combat thing to do in the F-16. So if you get a hang of that, formation flying is very easy.
Maybe I should start practicing the really hard things then.
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah, there's been a couple missions where it's like, oh, the F-16s absolutely will need the air-to-air refuel for this, and we're just like, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're not gonna bother because half of us can't fucking do it.
Ah. Then we need to start practicing it then. Can't have the 18s doing something we can't do.
It's easier for them because they have a visual point. For us, we're just staring at the bottom of an aircraft. Like,
Hope
okay.
for the best behind us. Yeah. I mean, they did get a drogue on the F-16 with the conformal tanks.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I've made my own little Block 70 mod.
Really?
But I kind of got, well, I didn't. Somebody else got slapped around because they were flaunting it off on the public server, so now I just don't use it at all.
Got it.
Oh, that sucks. I know there's the F-16I, the Israeli one, the 2C. I really want to try that, but you can't use the standard F-16 if you have that installed, which sucks some.
Well, yes, you can. So the problem is that it hasn't been updated since October for obvious geopolitical reasons.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit out of date right now. But you can absolutely still fly the standard F-16. The biggest issue is that it breaks integrity checks. So if you're trying to fly in like Hogget or Gray Flag, you can't use it.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be such a fun aircraft to fly, but it just sucks really. But
yeah, there was a time, like most of last year, pretty much every F-16 pilot was using it. I don't know. McKay, did you use it? McKay is dead. Yeah, I know when I was running my section, I had probably 5 or 6 people in there that were using it on a regular basis. Because the mod's not like inherently overpowered like a lot of people were the 18s were whining about it, saying that it broke missions and stuff like that. It didn't.
no, I mean, it had different weaponry. The weaponry weren't
Yeah, it wasn't like broken. Like the Python's just a slightly better AIM-9X, and then the GBU-39s are just very small-ass JSOWs.
Yeah, they was it the they get the Python 5s, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, the Python 5s are fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
But they were in real life.
They're also WVR missiles, which aren't very much used by us. I mean, they're nice to have, but when you only have 6 missiles, you're usually carrying one of them, if that, in a cap situation.
Yeah, I'd almost never carry AIM-9Xs in cap.
Yeah.
It's just sad that people would complain. Like, come on, really? Come on. It's a great plane, but is it broken? No. No, just hate to say it, get better.
What was arguably broken was when I was using my V mod, I put meteors on the damn thing.
Well, there you go. I mean, come on.
So hopefully Typhoon gets.
Yeah, that's where somebody went a little bit off the rails, and I gave them my mod, knowing that I was purposely holding myself back from using its full capability.
Oh man!
And they changed the code a little bit and ended up putting, what is 6 times 3? 18. So 18 meteors on the plane, and then flying it around on TAC 1.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I mean, someone did that today. Someone in a Mirage 2000 had unlimited AMRAMs or something and was just flying around with unlimited AMRAMs, killing their forts.
During the throwdown?
Yeah, and
Was
they
the
got
puppy?
booted. Yeah, it was just a random guy who joined, and he
yeah,
had
that-
infinite
that'll do
ammo
it.
on.
Oh boy.
But he was
Yeah,
getting the
we had-
F4, so it's been God's work, to be honest.
Yeah, we had a hubby one time that jumped on during an op that was using the F-14 with the like AIM 154s or whatever the fuck. What was like the prototype successor to the Phoenixes?
Phoenix, yeah.
He's just sniping people at like 150 miles.
Real BVR, baby.
Like, bro, that isn't even BVR. That's over the horizon.
Yeah, it's like I'm just gonna fly a small pattern off the ship and just boom, hit you. Oh, you gotta love it though, man.
Now we just have a standing roll of no aircraft mods allowed in this during ops period.
Better that way, to be honest, though. You know, I mean, if you're talking about like unit cohesion, right? You got one guy rocking a block 50, next guy in the same flight rocking a block 70. You got one guy with an F-14 coming off a carrier with freaking 10 Phoenixes. Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not even unit cohesion. It just makes it less fun for everyone else because one plane can complete the entire mission on
by
itself.
itself.
Like,
and I think the point of ops is to play as a team, as semi as possible. You know, not to like, okay, now we have fantasy land aircraft. No, come on.
Okay. Hey, man.
Yep.
I need to pull you out of this channel for like 1 minute.
Okay.
You guys almost done with this class, Harvey? I do not want to.
We are done. We're just kind of
All right.
talking random stuff now.
All right, brother. How did it go? All good?
Yep.
All right, man. Great. I'm gonna pull you down to S7, the office. Okay.
Oh, I forgot to ask McKay if he wants to let me hop in his SP tonight.
But do you fly the... What SP is his tomorrow?
Oh no, is it not McKay's section who are doing an SP tonight?
No, that's M. McKay got moved over to platoon sergeant of the Helos / F-15s.
Oh, I might ask.
Honey Badger got one in 15 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, I might. Who's
That's
SL?
M.
Okay.
Yep.
Give him an ask. See if he'll let me do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to head up out of here.
Same.
Have a good one, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Yep. If you guys have any questions during the week before the next class, just DM me. I'll be able to answer them pretty much at any time as long as I'm not sleeping.
Yes, sir.
I'll be
All right, man.
time. I won't be late. Sorry about that.
I won't have
Good,
two
man.
classes scheduled at the same day.
Yeah, that too. And a throwdown too, because nobody talks to each other.
you know, when ITW came up, I was like, yes, I'm doing that. And then you posted the F-16 scope, like, but I really want to do that one too.
Yeah.
Come on.
That was just a disconnect on multiple people's part there.
Yeah, I was like, okay. Then Chip told me, well, you can do both. I'm like, I can. I'm signing back up.
I just squeezed in for the throwdown.
I literally just put a block in my schedule for these classes because I'm always working. I was like, fuck this. No. You guys can deal without me for like 2.5 hours.
Right, I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah. Catch your boys on the flips.